Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Tiger Talk this month. I'm Jeremy Williams, the school superintendent, and we're excited about the new school year. I've got with me today Dion Karen, our Director of Business Services, and just want to talk a bit about back to school and what's going on across all the sites. And certainly we hear often, school must be that summertime, those 3 months must be really quiet, and I think Dion would say it's been anything but in his office this summer. It's, we get construction project done and think, it's going to be a different pace, and it was just continued to be busy. So I'm just going to kind of walk through some announcements. We'll talk about each site, and Dion chime in, and we'll share some things with the viewers.
Sounds good.
So just first want to share, we're really excited. We're at that time of year. We're welcoming people back for back to school workshop time. Our staff come back to school next week now. We have a variety of times set aside for work in the classrooms and getting people times to get some back to school informations and a keynote presentation set up for staff with that. Our back to school theme this year, we're talking about sharing the power of why with our staff and with kids, trying to connect those different goals all under one framework. So we've got a new strategic plan rolling out with that. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think our staff and our community had a lot of input on that plan, and we got some good things to help explain how all the pieces fit together as we think about that why for going forward. So looking forward to that message with our staff. That all wraps up on Thursday, August 25th, and then we're ready for open houses and that sort of thing coming up. Open houses are scheduled at all the sites. Most of them are going to be on September 6th. That's our first day for that at the different locations. And classes are going to start on Wednesday, September 7th at all sites with the exception of kindergarten. Families, you should have received in the mail or via email over the last couple weeks some information from your school about what to expect with the open houses and what to bring with you and such when you come. If you haven't received that, I encourage you to reach out to their building office. All the principals and the admin assistants are back in school full time, so call the school or stop by and they'll get you the information if you feel like you missed that. I do also want to encourage families that we have the online registration is open. We would like you to have that completed before you come to the open house day, so if you can go online and get that completed, and if you need access to a computer for that, you can stop by the school office as well, and we can help you provide some assistance with getting on, but we want to get that information all updated so we have current phone numbers and addresses and email addresses and everything we need to communicate with you throughout the year is a big piece, and of course get the information about your students enrolling. So Dion, let's talk a little bit about the Cti Site. That's a site that we purchased a year ago. We were originally hoping maybe we'd be opening this fall, and we had some setbacks with material availability and getting contractors lined up and such, just like we're seeing kind of all over the place. And on that location, there's a few buildings. We had some storm damage on August 2nd. Want to share a little bit about what's going on with that?
Yeah, so unfortunately during one of the storms this fall, one of the warehouses on the site was blown over. Thankfully, nobody was in the building or hurt. We had some equipment and material in it. We'll be going through that. Insurance will be covering that. We just got to get some estimates on rebuilding that. That was an important piece to some of our strategic planning. It was kind of our phase 3 of getting some additional storage, and it just happened that location for our CTI had this nice big warehouse, but like I said, unfortunately it blew over. We'll get it rebuilt, hopefully stronger, better. We'll be using that not just for storage, but also hopefully down the road for some CTE classes, construction classes. But we'll be working on that, getting some quotes to rebuild that. Yeah.
Yeah, like it always goes. The one building on the location that we really didn't have plans to make changes to,
right,
and to be the one that got hit with that storm, and it was a complete loss. But appreciate the work that you and your team have done to get that cleaned up, and like you say, we'll get that rebuilt and be better, and I'll become part of the whole overall project now.
Yeah, it was nice. That morning when it had. The morning after it had blown down, we reached out to D&G, and they were out there within like 15 minutes to help us assess the situation, and within 2 days it was cleaned up. So special thank you to D&G for their help and their timing on it.
In those cases where being in a small town and having those local community partners is really beneficial. We sometimes take those things for granted, but it really is appreciated, and we have that. when we're talking about that center a little bit, let's just talk a little bit about kind of where we're at with timelines for that. So driving by, people aren't going to see a lot of change other than the building that's now gone. But
Right.
a lot of work is happening behind the scenes, and some construction will be starting soon. Any updates you want to share with the community on that?
Yeah, so we've done, like you said, a lot of work behind the scenes. We've worked with the architects and got the plans out. We've got the bid process is done, so we have the contractors picked. Right now, we have to submit the plans to the state. State goes through a queue and then they review it. We feel like we're very close to the state reviewing that. Once they review it, if there's any changes that they require, we'll have to go through that. But we feel like we're getting close to that spot where then we can hand it off to the contractors. The nice thing is our consultant ICS is working with the contractors to get materials purchased and some things done ahead of time. So once the plans are approved, we can start construction right away.
Let's just start going. Great. All right, let's start with early childhood. Let's talk about that program a little bit. So early childhood, they had a big screening day that took place. Starting in early childhood, we have all the necessary screenings to make sure students are ready and prepared to come back to start for school. That actually took place on August 22nd, the full screening day, getting all those students through and prepared with that. Early childhood also had a lot of summer programming that was new this year. They offered some different classes, some for students and parents together, and they met at the park and did some things. They had some things in the classrooms at Parkside. A lot of different preparing for kindergarten things taking place. That was all related to some COVID funding. Can you share a little bit about kind of what that COVID funding was that helped to fund?
Yeah, so a lot of the COVID funding that we received was specifically for summer programming, trying to get kids back on track due to us being either distance learning or hybrid. So we were able to, along with our early childhood coordinator, who kind of brought this to us, said, yeah, we have some extra funds due to the COVID funding for summer, and we're able to do this program last summer, which was great.
Right,
yeah.
And we had a lot of very positive feedback from that program. When we're on early childhood, that all takes place at Parkside. So Parkside had a busy summer in general because not only did early childhood programming, they hosted all of our summer school programming this summer. So last day of that was the end of July. So now they've gotten the building cleaned and ready to go there, getting the rooms all ready. Staff are coming in. Custodians have been working. We had a few things happening with the HVAC system at that building this summer too. There wasn't a lot of things because they were busy with classes, but share a little bit about some of the summer work that took place at Parkside.
Yeah, so, and we've kind of talked about this in the past. Parkside is a little over 30 years old, and we've put a lot of attention to it. We talk about our community really was vocal on keeping our facilities updated when we asked them for Southview, and kind of really took that on. And so the past 2 to 3 years with with Parkside, we've redid some roofing, we redid carpeting, we redid some of the HVAC, and then this summer we actually replaced the boilers and the chillers, which were again getting that 30 plus years, which is a little past, but they were still working. So we replaced that. So the HVAC system, the indoor air quality is all updated at Parkside. So we're getting to a point where Parkside is now at the point where we can focus on another building. We'll talk about that in a little bit, where we're now focusing at the middle school.
Right, good. So let's talk about Southview. That's kind of next on the list. Southview is a brand new building last year. We actually opened up almost exactly a year ago. We had the grand opening and opened those doors up for the community. And with any new construction project, we find some things that need to be continued to reviewed, or maybe some changes that have to take place. And I think we've had some questions from the community about some of that this summer. So that's the reason we didn't use Southview for summer school. We want to make sure we had the opportunity to get things finished up, and we're about there now. Yeah. So I think one of the questions I had the most about this summer was the landscaping. It looked a little rough around there this summer a bit, but there were some reasons with that, and just some design things that as it came together, we had to get fixed up. And I've seen work has taken place. You want to talk a little bit about that? Yeah,
that's a hard one because myself, you and a lot of people, we really want our properties to look, that the taxpayers know that they're getting their money's worth, that we're taking care of them. And with the construction being a little delayed last year, just due to, again, some of the delay in labor and materials, it wasn't completed until the end of August. And so with landscaping, that came in a little late. And so was always in the talks that we would re-review it in the spring, which we did this spring. And then we were unable to really let our groundskeeper take a hold of it because it was still under warranty. We had to work some things out with the contractor. We were able to do that a couple weeks ago. And I think if you drive by Southview now, you can see a huge change. We've have some things that the contractor still has to do, but we took over maintenance of it. And our groundskeeper and our crew, our summer crew, has done a great job just changing the whole looks of it. So.
Right, and then all cleaned up. So, in addition to that, at Southview, we've had some stuff inside, so with some flooring that got changed out because of some warranty work as well with that. But exciting thing for students that come this fall, they're going to see some dinosaurs in the building.
Yeah.
So, I want to share just a little bit what happened with that.
Yeah. So, we've got a beautiful mural in the media center that went up before opening. One of our paraprofessionals, Adam Hansen, had actually designed that. And so we had opened, or Peter, the principal, had opened up to the teachers different ideas for their different wings. And second grade teachers had brought forth a dinosaur suggestion of putting dinosaurs on the wall and their measurements. So then we handed that off to Adam Hansen again, and he did a great job designing the mural. And then we had a company that actually printed it and installed it, and turned out great. It covers a lot of the wall, goes up, when you go up the steps, you can see the dinosaurs as you go up the steps. So I think the kids are going to really love it. I really think it just puts a pop on the elementary, it's an elementary building.
Right.
And hopefully we can do some more.
Some of those little fun things that we just didn't have time for to finish last summer. So the kids will certainly enjoy that when they come in. So let's move on to the middle school. That's where a lot of the work took place this summer. So traditionally we've had some summer school classes and such in the middle school. That didn't happen this summer because that was kind of the focus of some of our funds there. So let's talk a little bit first about the funding that we use to do this, because it's not just general fund money that does these summer projects, just maintenance things. There's some money from the state specifically for that. And then let's talk about some of the projects that we did.
Yeah, and thank you for kind of pointing that out, because we do have a lot of projects that we're doing, and those funds are totally outside of our operational funds that we use for teacher salary benefits and our curriculum. But one of them was the track. We were able to actually have some extra construction funds. Southview will be using that area. The track, just throwing out some years, I'm not 100% sure, but probably hasn't been resurfaced for close to 20 plus years, and it was peeling up. So community uses that quite a bit, and our middle school uses it, our JV track, and then Southview is going to use it too. And we thought it was very important to get that, not just for use, but safety replaced. So that has been completely replaced and painted. So it's very exciting. I see community members out there every morning walking on that. So it's definitely for the schools, but it's a nice addition for the city of Marshall.
Yep. In addition to the track, we had some interior projects. I see new windows going in at the middle school. And
yeah. So the windows, again, part of safety and security. Those windows were over 30 years old, single pane glass. We're replacing with double pane tempered glass. So that was a couple of things. One was safety and one was energy-wise. So we're going to be saving some energy costs putting in the new windows, and then also safety-wise with the double pane. Carpet we replaced throughout the whole building. That was around 16 to 17 years old. As you can imagine, with 4 grades in there, over that long a time, it takes its wear. So again, we want to take care of it before it gets way out of, really bad.
Yep. Yeah. And then some HVAC work, some lighting work. We'd started some of that work last year, and that was just to finish that piece up.
On both of those, yeah, you're right. The lighting we had done probably about 60% of the building, and the HVAC probably about 80% of the building. The HVAC we hadn't done in the gym. We now have our multi-purpose area we'll talk a little bit about. The old pool area, the HVAC needed to be updated, and then also in our locker rooms. And then along with that, it just made sense to finish off our retrofitting for our lighting, which again, both of those energy-wise are going to help us save some money.
Right.
We get some rebates on those. But yeah, you can totally see a difference, especially with the lighting when you walk in with the LED lights. It just makes things a lot brighter for the staff and students.
Right. Yeah, the building's looking great. So let's talk about that multi-purpose room. So we've had the pool was decommissioned a number of years ago, and that building that portion of the building really hadn't been used since then. So last year that pool area was filled in and new floor was put in. So now it's a large open space that can be used for a variety of things. One of the things that our activities department is excited about is we're going to move some of our gymnastics. We're going to move all the gymnastics equipment over there, and we'll do that for practice. And it's actually big enough and set up where we can run some tournaments and some that sort of thing out of that location, which will be nice.
Yeah.
But also be used for the middle school. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, you bet. So, like you said, we filled it in. That was actually an area that we had to keep heated and cooled. So for about 15 years, we were heating and cooling an area that was unusable. And kind of like the track, we just figured that it's time that we need to get this done. And we had some other funds between our long-term facility and some other funds outside our operation that we were able to get that completed. It's really kind of, if anybody's ever seen the pool area, you won't even recognize it anymore with it being filled in, drywall, painted, the HVAC system's updated, the lighting's updated. Like you said, we'll be moving our gymnastics over. We had the gymnastics at the high school, but every time we had competition, we had to move the equipment into the gym, which was wear on the equipment, our staff, and our gym floor. So it'll be nice to have a dedicated space for that. People will be able to come and watch, some of the tournaments, and it'll be used for middle school during the day. We run out of space when it comes to Phi Ed during the winter, or if it's raining out, and some other classes. And just last week, we were able to use it for the primary election because that was the location, and our gym wasn't able to be used because of our HVAC. So, yeah, it's exciting to have that extra space.
Nice cleaned up location with a separate entrance that's close to the parking lot, so you don't have to walk a long ways to get in there. So it's really going to be a nice community use space in addition to what the school needs with that.
Yep.
Fill the big need that we had for some space needs with our activities. So
yeah.
That's great. In addition to all of that work that took place this summer at the middle school, we had some programming changes taking place in the middle school. So middle school has worked really hard this summer. They've rebuilt their schedule completely. So classes are now going to be 68 minutes, a little bit longer blocks of time for that. And we've added some pathways courses. We've been doing CTE work for the last couple of years in the district for sure. And this is really pulling some of those CTE, the career and technical classes, into the middle school. So we've added an ag class, we've added a Hvac class, we've added this PAYS lab. PAYS lab is a career hands-on exploration course that we're adding so kids can get some feel for some different job skills and such at the middle school level. And all of that kind of happened most of it happened through attrition and kind of rearranging internal staff without really making a lot of additions there. But the new schedule was as part of how we make that work for everybody. So really excited about those pieces starting this fall. I know that the middle school administration, Paula and Peggy, they're also excited about the guided learning classes that they've added in there. So some built-in time to help with that. And it's going to have the whole schedule's got a new look and feel when the students come back this fall. So excited to roll that out and get that part all going at the middle school. High school, they're kicking off the year on September 6th as well. They're doing a little bit different. They've done the last few years. It's not really an open house. They've got ninth graders there for the whole day. They're going to attend an orientation program that's led by Link Crew. So it's a training that our staff and these junior and senior students attend to help that successful transition for freshmen into the high school. It's worked really well for us. It's been a really welcoming experience for those freshmen students coming into high school for the first time. It's a big building. It can be a little intimidating for a new kid. So this has worked really well. We're looking forward to that in the 6th. And then after the freshmen have had some time, just them in the building, then the other classes will come in and we'll run a mock schedule in the afternoon. So they'll run shorter blocks. Students all get to kind of walk through where their classrooms are and meet their teachers and see who's in the rooms before they come for the full first day of class on the 7th. So that has worked well, and we'll do that again this year. There were a few projects that took place at the high school this summer with the practice field. I saw some work taking place out there with the football practice area, and then some landscaping work that has taken place. So anything you want to share about those projects this summer?
Yeah, we continue to work on the landscaping out at the high school as things now around 17, 18 years old, the high school is. Some of the landscaping that's grown out, we just need to redo it a little bit, make the high school look good. And then the practice fields, the irrigation system, just needs to be updated, upgraded. So we're doing that little by little as things, if something breaks, we're upgrading it to try and get those practice fields in good condition, safe condition to be played on. But like we mentioned, 17, 18 years old, that's going to be the next school that's in our plans for carpeting, LVT, and some other things, probably in about 3 years, the roofing project, which is going to be, it's a big building, so it's going to be a big project.
We still refer to it as the new high school, but it's going to have to come to reality at some point that it's just not new anymore. So it's still a beautiful facility, and just doing the maintenance work that we need to continue to do there too.
Yep.
Maytech is the next one I want to talk about. A few things I want to share about Maytech. That's our ALC location. We host a summer school program through Maytech that is a credit recovery program for high school students that are credit deficient or missing a few credits they need for graduation, to be prepared for graduation. That program was hosted this year again at the high school, and that worked really well to move that out to the high school, just a little more space than we have at our Maytech site. Those classes all wrapped up on July 1st. We had really good turnout with that. We had 95 students enrolled in that summer school session that were there to earn credits and kind of get caught up, so they're back on track for this fall when they come back to school. Maytech staff is also planning for after hours. That's another credit recovery option that's part of the programming with that program. Looking at making some small changes with that for this year for students and families that have participated with after hours in the past. We've had Wednesdays have always been a bit of a challenge because our staff have PLCs, so they need to go for about an hour to these meetings and then should get back and be there to support the kids. So restructuring that a little bit so we won't have Wednesdays as part of the schedule, go a little longer some other days and not have Wednesdays in the schedule so you don't have that confusion with the staff not being available for a while on those evenings. So that's going to work well there. Big conversation, though, that we're having around Maytech is around the location. We've talked about a permanent home for Maytech for some time, and what that could look like. First when it first opened, it was called the Life Skills Center. It was located on the college campus at Southwest State. It was at the time, down on the first floor over by the Ed department, where the Ed department is. That location worked for us for a while, and then we moved to the mall, where we had a location. We were there for a number of years. That's actually when I was the administrator of that location. We were at the mall. That location had temporary walls and kind of one big open space. It wasn't a long-term solution. We found the site we're currently at the former call center. That has been working for us the last few years, but we still hear from staff and from students that we still have wall partitions instead of actual classrooms. And it's just one of those things where it's hard to instruct where, for example, if you're showing a video or doing some sort of project, you need to dim the lights and you have to dim the entire wing, and everybody has to do with that. Or if you have an activity that's a little bit louder, makes a little more noise, and everyone in the wing has to hear that. It just makes some additional challenges. So we've talked for a number of years about what could a more permanent space look like, and really believe that an improved space could help benefit all students attending that program. Over the last couple of years, we've talked with the service cooperative in town about some of their space needs as well. They're looking for a new home for an educational learning center here in Marshall. We've done some space utilization studies and looked at what do we both need and how does that interact, because we have some very similar space needs with that, and we really believe it could benefit both of us having one space housing both programs, running separately but still having kind of some common space, and save some money, honestly, with rec space and with lunchroom space and some restroom space and some of those things that we both need but we both don't need all day long. Through that space study, we found that would really be beneficial to both of us, and we looked at some options in town and what things exist, what locations are in town that are available. Aren't a lot of spaces large enough to house both of us, but one of the spaces we found was a social science building that's on the college campus. In that conversation, we discovered that SMSU is looking at needing to find a new use for that building, and has to consider the future of that building and how what they're going to do with it. So we've walked through that. We've had some conversations with a project manager and architect about how could this work for us. We feel it really would fit our needs very well. Service Co-op has expressed they kind of feel the same way. It's across the street from our high school. There's green space. There's that more traditional classroom feel, but still that alternative feel because you're on a college campus and you can do things different. So we feel it could really meet that need well. So conversation that we feel is is certainly worth continuing to pursue. A lot of details that still have to be worked out because there's a lot of parts that we don't have figured out yet, but feel like this could be a fit to meet that need long term for our ALC locations. So want to kind of keep that conversation out there too, and that's going to be a conversation we keep going with this year. One of the things, Deanne, that we're working on with that certainly is around the funding with that. So I had shared at the board meeting, we've talked at the board level about this. We wouldn't be looking at spending more money in this move than we are now. Can you talk just a little bit about how that works? How do you move and it's not spending more money, and how do we fund that?
Yeah, from what we're talking with SMSU and SWWC for Marshall Public Schools, we really, besides getting, like you said, a good location, good classrooms, a good right across from the high school, really wouldn't be much of a change for us funding-wise or cost-wise, just because we would be leasing it from the co-op or the co-op foundation. So like we're leasing the current location, we wouldn't own the building, we wouldn't be the main, we would be subleasing it from them. The funding actually comes from our levy. We lease levy for those buildings like the call center right now. So it's whatever we work out with the lease, we put that in through the lease levy. We are capped at a certain amount, but from some of the calculations, like you had said, if we were to move out there, depending on how everything shakes out, we'd be looking at the same amount, maybe even saving some money by moving out there.
Right. So another reason that this just seems to fit what we're looking for and what we need for that program. So.
No tax impact change on it.
Right.
If anything, for the better.
Could be a savings. That'd be great. The last thing that I had, one of the last things I'd like to share about a little bit today, talking about operating referendums. So we've started that conversation. The board has decided to move forward with an operating referendum ask for this fall. Marshall Public Schools had an operating levy of $675 per pupil that expired in 2018, correct?
Correct.
So that was allowed to expire at that time. Voters approved referendum for Southview since then, which also expanded Parkside, made some critical safety, security improvements that all happened in that meantime. But looking ahead, our financial picture is changing as a district. So we talked earlier about some of those funds that fund the maintenance of our buildings. That this operating is different. This is the day-to-day operations of the building, hiring staff and some basic supplies and stuff that we need to keep going. Our district is facing a budget deficit of as much as $2 million during the 23-24 school year. Addressing that looming deficit, that's where the board said we need to talk about this operating levy again that we had let expire. That levy was going to stabilize district's finances. It's going to help us carry out our strategic plan that we've laid out, where we've laid out priorities for the district, and protecting some of those educational programs and staffing levels that our community has come to expect. If approved, the referendum would reinstate that previous operating levy of $675 per student. Tax impact would be slightly lower than what the previous impact on that levy was, is our understanding with that. Investment would generate about $1.8 million, so would cover that anticipated gap. For classroom expenses like books, technology, student and staffing programs, athletics, career and technical education classes, and the board would continue to use COVID dollars like we've used the last couple of years to cover some of that gap. So certainly as we're going into the next couple of months up to the vote, up to the November election, we'll be doing some presentations and talking more about what that looks like. We'll be launching a website in the next few days that will have a lot of information for community members that have questions about what does that look like, how would that impact my taxes. All those answers are coming. Those are all pieces that we're putting together in our communication process with that. So anything about the operating levy? Dan,
No, I think you covered it. It's just the important thing is we've been able to use COVID funds over the last 2.5 years to try and offset some of the gap between the inflation and what we get from the state, and with those COVID funds running out, for us to be able to take a step back and be able to keep our class sizes and our programs the same, we'd need to reinstate that.
Cuts that might have happened a couple of years ago didn't, because the COVID funds came through, so we were able to maintain, and we need to either replace that or that could happen. So I'd like to mention food service. That's something that's changing this year as well. In the past couple of years since COVID, the government has offered free meals to all students attending public schools or attending schools in Minnesota or across the country. It's a federal thing. That's been a great benefit for our families. That program has expired. So we're back to the normal with food service again, where there's free and reduced applications that families need to fill out to qualify for that. If you're not sure if you qualify, we encourage you to reach out to the school. Those applications are available online. There's also paper applications. We've mailed them to the homes, and we'll be happy to get you another if you need. They're also available in the offices at the schools or in the district office. You can come by and pick that up. I really encourage all families to get those filled out and make sure, find out if you qualify for those benefits, because that does look different again this year with meals being full paid again this year.
Applications are available online on their parent portal also. And if you don't qualify, it'll go back to the way it used to be, where you put funds for food service on your parent portal so your student has funds available.
Right. Last thing I'd like to cover as we do our back to school, a lot of topics today. E-learning days. So we've had e-learning days that the state passed those, I think right before COVID hit, they passed and approved e-learning days. That's something the district does intend to access again this year. The state allows up to 5 e-learning days to be accessed in case of inclement weather. So it has to be because of weather. And those days would be instruction will be provided online or in some online method. Teachers will review with students prior what to expect or what to look like or what those days look like or what to do on those days. If we have more weather days, I'm hoping we don't have more weather days than that, but if we do, those would have to be added on to some point in the year or made up like they have in the past. So it's the same plan as we've had previously. Just want to make sure people are aware that that could happen this year. Like in the past, if we have inclement weather days, that information will come out via our automated texts, phone messages, emails on our website, and all of the local media sources as well. So, Deanna, I appreciate you coming in and being with me as we update on the school year. Certainly an exciting time at school. Those 3 months weren't quiet in our office, but it just isn't the same without the kids and the staff around. So there's just something about that buzz of excitement when everyone's coming back. And we actually have new teachers in the office today, and it feels right having people around again. So really looking forward to having all the kids back in school and getting back to our to what our normal is. So thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon.